Welcome to the March 5th, can you believe it, meeting of the Weare Board of Selectmen. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First, under department heads, Chief Sean Kelly, and we're once again looking at the job description for the animal control officer position. And everybody had a copy of that to bring home and read. We've got one that's slightly updated.
Just 2 bullets from this afternoon.
All right, just those 2 bullets that you got this afternoon, just to let you know that those come from other sections of our manual. That's not new, so that wouldn't impact this at all. But it was worth putting in there for considering the section conditions of work.
It made sense to me.
All right, so rather than go through this multiple page document, you've all had an opportunity to read through it. If you have any specific questions, I'll be happy to try and answer them now. And if I can't get to you, I'll get back to you.
It looks good to me. It sounds like probably took it from policies that some of them like were in existence, rather from CLEAR, from other organizations. It's,
yeah, the wheel's been invented. We have the opportunity to plagiarize others' work.
Well, that's the way to go, rather than reinventing that wheel.
Yep.
On page 3, under flight considerations, just a tiny little thing on the first line. I just insert the word for, 2/3 of the need for swift response.
Oh, there you go. Thank you.
Comment from anybody on this?
Yeah, page 1, 3rd paragraph in policy, first line. Shouldn't it be the town of Weare animal control officer, not the Weare Police Department animal control officer?
It's fine with me.
Okay. I mean, I understand that you are the direct supervisor per se. Obviously first line sergeant up the chain of command to yourself. But I think it should be, town of Weare more so than, because at that point, that department has its own budgetary lines and all that. So I think it should be kind of separated a little separation from the police department at that point.
You can make it a function of Parks and Recreation, since they're not here to defend themselves, if you'd like.
That's not like a buck pass.
I think it's okay, I change it in that place, but I don't think it has to be changed all the way through to everywhere.
Oh no, that was only the one I really saw where it really latched that position to the department.
What's anybody's thought?
That was my thought.
Okay. Jan, Jack, anything? Or do you need a little more time?
No, I don't think it makes much difference, but if that way it clarifies something, then I don't feel it down to the town of Weare animal control officer.
But I think the other references to the police department should stay because it relates to the police department policies.
Yeah.
So is that a consensus to change it? Yes? Okay.
Well, I thought it was pretty comprehensive.
Well, we've been at it for a few months, it should be at this point.
All right, I got one more then. Just a question on the board's feelings. Under the purpose, it says civilian employee of the Weare Police
Where are you?
Department.
I'm sorry.
First page, under purpose.
Okay.
It says, third line, second line, civilian employee non-sworn of the Weare Police Department. I mean, it almost ties it too tight to the department, that's all. I mean, if we wanna start taking wages out of police department, that's fine.
Again, that can,
It has
with
its own
the
budget
stroke of a
though.
pen.
I
The
know,
town of
but-
Weare
Oh.
Parks and
But to me,
Recreation.
the way I read it, right, I know, but the way I read it, it's very, I understand that it's gonna go through your department, I understand, you know, everything that, all the mechanics of it, but
I'll find a way to,
I just-
I'll find a way to spell that out.
I just rather have a little bit of a disconnect there, that's all.
What if you put both, Rick, just the town of Weare and the Weare Police Department? So that it has the town of Weare first, but it is under the direction of the police
Well,
department.
Yeah,
civilian employee of the town of Weare, under the management of,
I'll find some appropriate language to put in
Yeah,
there.
something like that, but I think we
Yeah.
need the police department in there.
oh, no, I'm not saying that they shouldn't be in there, it's just,
specify that it's non-sworn, isn't it?
oh, it does.
Important,
Right.
important thing, too. That's important.
People let me know when you reach the point where we can,
Don't think I had.
So I'm wondering what you want to do with this, Tom? What kind of action are you looking for? Because if this is gonna be a town policy, then it should come off of the Weare Police Department Policy Manual. If this is gonna be my policy, then frankly, you shouldn't be voting on it.
can't be both. I mean, seriously, I understand what you mean,
What-
you want
what-
it in your policy manual, because you
Exactly, because then you start to go down the path of the Board of Selectmen having managerial control over the police department into the depth of policy. What's to say that next week you say, well, we want to vote and approve your such and such policy, and then we continue to go down that path, and that's not your role. I establish policy for the police department. You give me the general functions of that you're expecting from us. This was a budgetary thing that we worked out together, and I'm happy to have that conversation with you, and that's why we're here looking at this today. But I don't think that you should be voting on policy.
But we don't do the job descriptions for sergeant or lieutenant or patrol officer.
Nope.
So I understand where you're coming from. The only thing that holds it up a little bit is the discussion that Rick had earlier about differentiation between town Weare and the police department. But I don't think anybody here wants to be in charge of the animal control officer. So maybe Naomi, I don't know.
No.
So there you, if you want to have it as a separate department where it's got a separate budget, then I'll be happy to turn it over to you and manage it for you. But if this is going to be a function of the Weare Police Department, then I don't think we should be voting on it.
The only thing I see on the procedure, chief, it says for the purposes of this directory, domestic animal,
Where are you?
page 2.
Yep.
Well, I had a question on that too.
It says domestic animal, and it goes right into the fact, which we had our problem with before, is an animal control officer responding to things a vet should, such as helping birth a calf or a horse or someone along that. I think that falls outside of the general realm of it. I mean, the animal control officer is there for stray dogs or dogs running at large and that, but to go help somebody who has horses, cows, and so forth, deliver an animal, or deliver that, I think that's more, A, people that own it should be well versed in that, or B, they should have, the vet should be there. And I don't see that spelled out.
This is very frankly one of those instances where I think this is more of a cultural thing here in town than I'm accustomed to. In my past, the animal control officer was limited to dogs, essentially.
Most of them are dogs.
But that community was vastly different than this. And the expectations of the residents of that community are vastly different from the expectations of this community. Some of the things that I have seen now, for particularly because we've been paying such close attention to it, is that there is a cultural expectation that the animal control officer is more of a jack of all trades than merely the dog officer. But again, that is something we can talk about. I mean, there are significant implications to this by expanding the role of this to include large domestic animals, and that's an area that I do not have the expertise in. You know, somebody called me down to come take care of their, in the absence of an animal control officer, said, "Hey, Sean, can you come down to the farm and do this?" No. I mean, I would be worse than a lost ball in high weeds, because that's just not something that I could even begin to. So this,
So are we stepping out of just the dogs?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of.
Are you expanding? Are you saying you're expanding from just the dogs?
that's what my experience has been since before my predecessor left, was that the animal control officer's roles and responsibility included large domestic animals. And over the course of my tenure, as you'll recall, we've had a number of instances where we've had the animal control in here and praised their work for their investigative work on abused and domestic animals, large domestic animals.
Well, that's a different thing. That's an investigation which gets turned over to the SPCA ultimately.
But it's still large domestic animal.
But to go do the birthing of a large domestic animal, it's one thing to do animal abuse. That's an issue that it costs us money, because now they're out there doing something and posting it, and it was posted on Facebook, the last animal control. And that's not well spent of our tax dollar when there's other stuff, and they're working beyond their so-called authorized hours.
So
the other thing is the liability of doing something involved with something like that. What medical training, if any, that we end up paying for somebody's cow.
Where are we with regard to the culture?
The culture is one thing. I mean, there's cultures in every environment.
Yep.
Doesn't mean that they're the right cultures, but it doesn't mean it serves well. And I think,
Jack, I hear you.
And I think that
frankly,
we should limit it unless it's an abuse investigation. And spell that out specifically. To me, that's
I would have to seek out somebody to consult to limit this, to know how to limit this. Because, I could say, we're not doing large domestic animals, period.
Unless you get a complaint for abuse. I mean, and that happens in a lot of towns. I mean, the animal control officer does not get involved with the birthing, does not get involved with the care unless there's an abuse complaint. They go look at it, document it, call SPCA. They have the resources and have the people to come down, to take care of them, have the training. Okay, we're gonna take it. And act as a backstop.
That's
And I think
that kind of thinking makes my life easier.
And it
But I'm not
relieves
sure
us
that
of a
you're-
lot of responsibility and liability, because if they go in and take that, then we're on the hook for probably the care and custody of those animals till somebody does come along. That's what I'm looking at, is that, it's like, going out and taking care of every critter that comes down the road and going, okay, well, basically, under the definition, doesn't have the authority to go take care of a wild animal, but was doing it anyway. If something happens, we're on the hook. Fish and Game has that moniker for that, and I'm just looking at the fact that we're gonna be relieved of some liability as far as that part of it.
I don't remember us having too much of a conversation about this before, Jack, so this is the first time.
No, I
that-
did bring it up once before.
I know, but we never got into it in depth.
Well, now that seeing this.
Right, so now it's in front of you.
It's spelled out, so it's like, I think it should be a little bit more well-defined.
Yeah, I think that we do have to differentiate, because we don't want our animal control officer substituting as veterinarian.
Mhm.
But on the other hand, we do want to give the person the power to investigate domestic issues,
Yeah.
Neglect or
Neglect,
abuse issues
abuse,
for
yeah.
animals, whether they're small or large.
Okay, so why don't I do this? I will seek out that person or persons that I need to get that advice from, how we could limit this appropriately. It may be simply, as you pointed out, Jack, just except for, we're gonna do this except for this.
Yep.
Which, that's easy enough. That's just the nice thing about a computer is cut and paste. But that won't be tonight.
In that same paragraph, where it says felines, parentheses, cats, are excluded from this definition.
Yeah.
Are we saying that?
It's not in the statutory definition.
Pardon me?
It's not in the statutory definition. That's the limitation there. It's the state's pretty specific about how the domestic animals, and cats aren't included. I know it's weird, but
Well, if it's not included in the definition, does that mean that the person can't respond to an issue concerning a cat?
Well, see, they're so sick or injured that they may be dangerous to humans, including those who have bitten the human. So there's with your exception.
right.
Okay, so it does
So
cover,
it's-
it if there's an injury to the
Right.
animal, or
Right.
you've got a biting cat. Any other issues before we go off from this and then have to replay the whole thing over again?
Let's, if you don't mind, don't expect it Monday.
No,
Yeah, I think,
actually, I don't even think we have to, unless you're gonna be here anyways, to make a special trip for that one paragraph. I think that as long as you get the concept of what
Yeah.
Jack was talking about, and we agree that just send along some wording of it so that we're aware of it. And then, although I understand what you're saying about approval, we don't have to make a formal motion, but is there any problem with this that people have, other than what's already been brought up?
Let's see.
We've been pretty careful with Beth has been a remarkable resource for us, making sure that the things that you've seen in there in terms of time limitations and so forth are compliant with DOL. So I'm pretty comfortable in that regard. We should be fine there.
Well, I want to move it along as soon as we can so we can post it and get somebody on.
Yep. So realistically, look, I'm gonna pull up some Mondays here. Depending on how quickly I can get someone to work on it with me, I would not be able to get it before the 19th or the 26th. Let's push it to the 26th just to give me the time to make sure.
Okay.
Sean, do you have 1 second? Can we just talk about the unlicensed dogs?
I was just gonna ask about that, what it's gonna do to that.
I'll let you finish.
Thank you. I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Yeah, I shared a copy of the civil forfeiture that I think you got as well, that has the police department on it. It's my understanding that this is a form letter that's generated through the clerk's computer, and it fills in the name, the address, the pet, and the pet's rabies expiration date. So that's why it looks a little funny to you. Then it goes on to just explain that they haven't licensed it yet and that there is a forfeiture. And I guess from years past, the prior ACO used to come in and sign them, and then the town clerk mails them. They're not asking you to deliver them. But it needs somebody, because the RSA talks about the law enforcement. So she just asked if, I guess I don't have a problem. I mean, the police department, it's not your letterhead. If the civil forfeiture or the police department line came off, would there be any indication, or would it be our right to sign these? And then we deliver them. We're not asking you to go door to door. It's just something that the town clerk delivers via mail. And then typically most of them come in.
Is this the notice of seizure, or is this a heads up, you gotta do this?
This is to let you know that your dog has not been licensed, required by the RSA, and you're hereby required to pay a civil forfeiture to the clerk within 15 days.
I think that,
And then it just says any person who fails to pay the forfeiture within the time allowed will be issued a summons to the district court.
right. and
But
that's-
typically,
and that's
these
when
were
there's a law
signed-
enforcement
right,
So
these
if
were
you're just sending
signed-
a heads up to, be friendly town clerk, then I don't need to sign that. It's when it becomes, under the statute, there's going to be a legal action that you'd have to have, if
Okay.
I remember correctly, law enforcement, animal control officer, or humane society do it for you.
I
Yeah.
would suggest changing the heading to town of Weare, and then just have the town clerk sign them at this point, and then following that, if the next step is necessary, then we go to the...
Right, because it says at the time that the forfeiture is paid, you'll also be required to obtain a license. So that's all done here, and it gives our office hours, along with you have to prove the rabies certificate's current.
Yeah.
So, I guess if we just take off town of Weare civil forfeiture, put on the town of Weare, leave civil forfeiture, but take off police department, local law enforcement body, and animal control, and have the clerk sign them, would be okay? Is that what you're saying?
I would double check with Laura to make sure that there's not the animal control laws are extensive, and, I don't know every word of them.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
make sure that we're doing it right.
What did the town ordinance say?
The one that's typed in the old typewriter. It says any sworn officer may issue a summons to the owner or keeper of the animal found in violation of the ordinance. Civil penalties assessed may be any combination of violations, must be paid to the town clerk of Weare within 10 days. Otherwise, the named owner or keeper will be required to appear in court to answer the complaint. And then after that, it says the owner or the keeper of any animal that's picked up by animal controls in violation is assessed a $20 fee. The owner of a keeper of any dog which is unlicensed shall pay a civil penalty of $15 in addition to the appropriate fee. And it talks about one running at large, it talks about other fines. I'm just asking because, you know what I mean?
No, I agree with you. It has
You
to
know,
be
if you,
done because-
if I ask Laura and it's okay, for the town clerk to issue it, it's per RSA. I mean, if we're mailing them, which is what we're doing, we're not
From the
actually,
town clerk's office.
right, it's,
The way I understand it, Naomi, this letter is not an enforcement action.
no, it just is pointing out to them that, they'll have to pay a forfeiture for not registering their dog.
I don't have to do that. I mean, that's 1,000 notices that the police department doesn't have to send.
No, we were sending them, but there's a handful of, yeah, I say
When
a
it comes down
handful.
to enforcement, it's a different story, but.
Correct.
you-
Like, if they
even
don't
that-
pay this civil forfeiture, then that becomes the next step.
Mhm.
But by sending this out indicating that they haven't licensed it and that there's a civil forfeiture, I mean, we always sent them out anyway, regardless if Jesse's signature was on the bottom. You know, so they always were generated from here. I can run it by Laura, just double check.
Yep.
That's all right with the board. That's it, thanks.
Anything else from Chief Sean?
All right, thank you. Good night.
Next, Bruce Gilmore, run us through update on the garage.
Excuse me. The garage is finished. Almost. The, the- overall, the project, I mean, we got it done for slightly less than what was budgeted, what was voted on. But we got some things in the building that weren't part of the original contract. There's a water treatment system that was in excess of $5,000. There wasn't any allowance for any flooring at all in the office areas. We got that concrete polished, which is a good way to have that because people walk in with muddy shoes, they just sweep it up. It's not gonna destroy anything or wear anything prematurely. That was $6,000 plus to do that. The last thing we're gonna do is the airline system for the compressor. And we're upgrading that from what the contractor, what the plumber had originally figured was steel, which I was dead set against, Benji's dead set against. So, we're putting in aluminum pipe. And it's all, can come apart, it's not threaded at all, it's O-ring fittings and everything that can be easily expanded on, added onto if the DPW decides to need airlines somewhere they don't presently have them. So there's a few things like that we worked into the price, and it's still where it needed to be. Benji got curious last week about the generator. The electrician sized it based on the needs of the building. So he killed the power to the building, turned every light on, turned the boiler on. After the generator fired up, he turned every single, the boiler, then he went upstairs and started the compressor. When you start a compressor, that's when they draw the most power. And that came on and off a couple times, and the generator maybe even squeaked. It's a 45 kW generator, which is more than adequate for that building. It's all LED lighting in there. The generator's a screw drive. Compressor's a screw drive compressor, which uses a lot less power than a piston type compressor. And it's a variable speed motor, which uses a lot less power to start than a one-speed motor. So overall, it came out pretty nice. We got things in there that weren't in the original budget, but they, for example, the water treatment system also treats the water going up to the transfer station. So they've got potable water right out of the faucet now, which they've never had before. And it will help keep the iron out. You know, there's an iron system into that, so it takes iron out, so it'll help with their maintenance issues, so they don't have iron buildup anywhere. So I guess we're getting ready for an open house on next Saturday.
This Saturday.
That's what I meant,
The
this
10th,
Saturday.
yeah.
The mechanical guy is trying very hard to get the air system in for Saturday. He knows we're having an open house. Whether he does it or not, I don't know. But the compressor's all up, it's all wired. That was it got shifted around a couple times, so it's a little issue with the wiring on that, but that's all set now. And the only thing, the code enforcement officer is okay with giving a CO. He's waiting for the okay from the fire chief. And the fire chief just has to go through and do his last fire alarm test, which he hasn't done yet. All the plans have been, the as-built plans have been submitted, 2 copies. And I've got a thumb drive to give to Naomi that's got all the plans on it, so you can keep that in a safe place. And the contract right now is putting a book together on all the literature for everything in the building, along with written warranties from all the subcontractors for the 1-year warranty period. Overall, there's a lot of things that can go wrong with construction. And there wasn't anything that was really off the wall. It worked out pretty well. The general contractor was more than accommodating when I asked him to do a couple things that they hadn't planned on. I asked him well before it needed to be done, so they had plenty of time to plan for it. Some small things like the handrail system going up to the 2nd floor and window sills and things like that in the building that they changed from what they were going to do because what I wanted was more durable. So that's, I guess, if anybody have any questions?
Is the car lift all in? I mean, I saw it up, but is it usable yet? You know?
I don't know if it's usable. The wiring is all there for it, the
Right.
outlet and everything is, the contractors know what they need to do with it. The installation was on the DPW. The contractor, that's one of the things they helped out with. They lent them a hammer drill with the
Yeah, the hammer
bits and everything, so
Yeah.
they could, get everything. They were very accommodating with whatever Benji needed.
Last time I was there, it was standing. It was wired in, but it wasn't finished yet.
Yeah. I think they work on that when they have brief periods of downtime. Maybe today they got it going.
Yeah. In the afternoon.
Probably not Wednesday.
Probably not Wednesday or Thursday or Friday.
Can you explain any of the specifics that might have gone wrong? When you said they're not off the wall, that kind of scares me. You can either
No, things
off the wall
go.
from here to here.
There was a couple. The site work's a thing where something could go wrong, and something did go wrong. We hit a boulder inside the building where the tank went. We hit some ledge outside that needed to be hammered, but there was adequate funding in the site work budget to cover those things. So, that's the type of thing that happens in construction that You know, just, and some of the time delays, the overhead door guy was way overbooked, and he was tough getting him in there to finish it, but I mean, he did it, the right doors, everything came out as expected. But there's, anytime you put that many pieces together, there's room for things to go wrong. And they had some extra insulation left over from the building, and I mean, they gave it to Benji to use for whatever, I think he's gonna do some insulating up in the transfer station or something. You know, they could have just returned it and got credit for it, but they were very good to work with.
Jack, any questions?
If you guys would like to see it.
All that, all the finished site work will be done by the DPW.
Right, I mean, all they were doing was grading the gravel was done, which they did.
Right.
You know, just to get the water pitching away from the building. The rest of the grading and any paving was not.
DPW.
Right. You know, they ran into a couple, you know, like, example with the well, there was a couple boulders there, they had to hammer out to get out of the way to break up that had been put there over the years. One of them was, you know, couldn't move it with any machine around. And it's right where the well, a good spot for the well, so that, things like that, that's.
So have you got a report of all these variables or things that were done, or just like a?
No, I don't really think there's a need for one. I mean, it got done on the budget, within the budget. It's to break down every little detail that might have been a little off.
I mean, if something comes up though later on, at least we know what happened or what.
No, I mean,
transpired.
everything that was done was, it's done correctly. Like the boulders, I mean,
Well, yeah.
you know, the ledge under the footing, I mean, getting that out, I mean, that's just, the ledge was removed so that the footings were put in how they're supposed to be put in, that's.
Bruce, the thumb drive, is that just gonna contain the plans?
It's got the plans, yes.
Okay, and then the book
I'm
is
gonna get another thumb drive with all the warranties and literature on it, and we're gonna get a.
And that's gonna be the book?
Yeah.
So there'll be two separate thumb drives, okay.
Bruce, if you could, just to kind of maybe put as a, you know, like a first page on these books that we're getting from.
Turnstone.
Correct. Maybe if you could just type up something like a report, kind of giving us, you know, and just some of the highlights of what you encountered down there.
Okay.
Just you know, so that somebody 20 years down the road looks at it, opens that book, and goes, okay, it was, you know, this is what we had going on. You know.
That was my.
Yeah, and I mean, the as-built plans are, stack of plans weighs about 6 pounds.
Right.
So those are all, that's essentially what those tell the tale.
Right.
Also.
But I think, you know,
But I can put
a page or two of yours to the 6 pounds isn't going to be, you know,
yeah,
break the
a
bank,
lot easier
so.
to go through. Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Next Bruce.
Next on the agenda, Mr. Kirk had asked to be put on the agenda to speak to the board.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members. I'm Neil Kirk, and I live on Mount Dearborn Road. I wish to address the board on the default budget that will be before the budgets a week from tomorrow, before voters a week from tomorrow. As a result of a Superior Court decision after the town meeting deliberative session, the Selectmen removed about $60,000 from the default budget, representing new contract increases not previously approved by voters. Simultaneously, the Selectmen revisited the default budget and increased it by approximately the same $60,000. This was accomplished by increasing lines such as insurance to the prior year's appropriation amounts, even though you know that lower amounts will be spent this year. At its meeting last week, the board suggested that these increases in the default budget were agreed to by both parties to the lawsuit, the town and me. That was not the case. There was no agreement of any kind. The town's attorney asked my attorney whether the town could increase the default budget and provided a list of the proposed increases. My attorney told the town's attorney that the statute gave the selectmen authority based on, quote, relevant new information, unquote. That's the statutory language of RSA 4013, to change the default budget any time prior to the printing of the ballots. I don't believe the statute contemplated the loss of a lawsuit as, quote, relevant new information, unquote. So my question to you is this. What was the relevant new information on which you based your $60,000 increase in the default budget? I believe the voters of Weare deserve an answer. Thank you.
Thank you for your input.
You don't wish to answer?
No.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda, we have the minutes of 2/26/18.
In case you want to include it in the minutes.
Thank you, Neil.
Which I have somewhere here. Throughout this, the minutes, Naomi, for some reason, there were apostrophes left out all through. So I'm not gonna go through each one and point out where they were.
Like punctuation, or?
Yeah, like the word can't with C-A-N space T.
Was that your
apostrophe.
printer? Would that have been your printer?
I don't think so.
Because I did spell check, and I don't know what would have left without the T in it.
Yeah.
I didn't print it.
Let's go through.
Does it say it?
No?
Mine has it.
Yep, must have been.
I think it was the printer.
Yeah.
Because
hmm
Jan's has it.
Yeah, because I was gonna say I did spell check and it didn't pick them up. So
Yeah. So that was just my printer. I don't know why, but they couldn't pick them up.
not sure.
Going to page 3 for a moment. Anybody have anything on page 2? Page 1 or 2?
One, two, third paragraph down, last sentence.
That's page 2.
Yeah, take out is in and put in it is. That it is currently in.
Okay. Page 3, anybody? This is page 4 where I had a couple of things. In the first paragraph, second line, Chairman Close stated that any request for money rather than from money to be spent from this fund has to still go to voters. And then down under SPCA contract, fourth line, he is in support of them on board even when, I crossed out the word in. Anything else on page 4? Page 5, just, again, disregard my circles for apostrophes because
Is your
apparently
printer?
were there. Page 6, I only had one item, the second line up on the bottom. Chairman Close stated that it might be wise to put up
Yeah.
a suspended ceiling it said put up in, so I just crossed out the in and just put up a suspended ceiling.
I have third paragraph down, the second sentence towards the end, point out exactly where the 250,000 is.
Anything else on that page? Page 7. First paragraph, next to last line, it seems like, it says that we wait too long. I think you just take out the word that. It seems like we wait too long at times.
I added in the front of that sentence, if you don't mind.
Okay.
For impending projects, like, okay, it seems like we wait,
Oh.
okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Too long, after town meeting. Instead of at times, after town meeting.
Okay.
Because I think that was what I was
What did you have?
saying. For impending projects.
For impending projects?
Yeah. And where at times is after town meeting instead of at times.
Okay.
D.
Stated.
Taken aback.
We're not changing anything of substance, just,
Right, I mean, you can say them out loud, I just was
yeah,
trying
we
to show
just,
you, yeah.
where it says states, we've made it stated. This is in the big paragraph on page 7, and taken aback instead of just taken back. Anything else? On the last page, doesn't have anything wrong, except for the signature. You guys okay with it? Consent?
Okay. Who's
Well,
not
you
here?
weren't here, okay? Was perfectly okay with you.
It's perfectly fine.
Okay, move to approve the minutes of February 26 as amended.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Abstentions?
I do.
No, just abstain. Yeah,
That's you.
yeah, abstain, that's right, okay.
Forget my apostrophes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Send it back to school talk.
No, his printer needs a little help.
Send it further
I
back
don't
to
know
school.
why. We do have printer problems between Naomi and I. It's like, for some reason, I think John has the same problem. When she sends me the minutes in PDF form, I cannot print them. It just won't do it. But if I go to the website and take the same thing off the website, the print out fine.
It's that virus I send all the
Really
time.
weird. Okay, manifest. I move to order the treasurer to sign payroll and accounts payable checks dated March 8th, 2018, as included in the following manifests. Payroll, $54,361.75. Fire payroll manifest of $12,019.59. Accounts payable, $88,204.56. Supplemental account payable manifest, $4,124.24, for a total of $158,710.14.
There's just the fire department down here, there's 2 signatures. All right, Jan's gonna sign it.
I moved that we,
He moved.
Yeah,
Oh, you did? Oh.
did you
Second.
second,
Okay.
okay.
There's a couple things in there that I'm not particularly fond of. One in the payables, and one in the payroll manifest, so I'll be voting no for this.
Okay,
I think they should have been quoted in the purchasing policy.
all in favor of the manifest?
All right.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Administrators report.
Hang on. I did reach out to Servpro, as Jan had asked last week. I'm expecting to get a phone call to schedule them to come in for the estimate sometime. I don't know where it will take us, but I can share that with you afterwards. The rest of them have not changed. I just want to also state that candidates night, there's been some concern due to the impending storm that's coming in. Not sure how much we're going to get. I don't have an opportunity to change it so that it could be aired between now and then. Therefore, I'm going to proceed forward regardless of the weather, and see where we go from there. The cable committee is going to tape it, and so it'll be replayed, but it'll probably be replayed YouTube because that's quicker than putting it the other way. I'm not really sure. It could be replayed both ways. But I just wanted everyone to know that that is going to move forward for Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. David Recupero has offered to moderate. John Foss was not available, so David's going to moderate that. The Saturday, 9 to 12, we're going to have an open house at the DPW garage. Refreshments will be provided. It appears in the long-range forecast that looks okay, but hang on, tomorrow it'll change. Also, just there was a little bit of confusion on the next item. Esther McLean's 100th birthday party. I did actually speak to the family member directly today. It's going to be Sunday, March 11th at the Presidential Oaks in Concord from 12 to 2. So if you got there at 2, you'd be too late, which is what I think I got the message the first time. But I just wanted to let you all know, and that's just show up, and it's going to be, they have a room reserved from 12 to 2, and again, she's going to be 100. She's our oldest citizen, so.
Yeah, just to put it, she's the holder of the Boston cane, which is presented to the oldest citizen in town, and that's why 100th birthday is a significant event for the oldest person.
Not only that, 100's a significant event. Just saying.
Is that what I said?
You said, well, yeah.
Are we gonna have draft a letter that present to her from the Board of Selectmen congratulating her 100th birthday?
I think we should.
Yeah.
Proclamation.
I think we should.
Okay, well,
I remember when we presented the Boston cane, she said something to the effect, well, we congratulated her, and he says, wow, I didn't have to do much. It's just
yeah.
something to
I
that
can look
effect.
into that. I don't even know where to start,
Very,
though.
And if we just draft something from the town, let ahead and make something, you know.
Okay. I'm willing to try it.
Try it. I think it would be a nice thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if we just, in the town of Weare, declare the day, Esther McLean Day for that.
You talked about not reinventing the wheel earlier today, so we'll try that.
I
Um,
didn't say that. He
yeah.
did, Sean.
At the Thursday and Friday, I have a vacation time, and then I just want to, at the end of the evening, I'd like to have non-public. Under A and C at the end of the evening. That's it.
Anything else? Any questions for Naomi on your report?
Is this mine or
I think that's mine, but
Okay.
I could be
yours? You
wrong.
got so much stuff.
Good thing there's not three of you at the end of the table.
I know, huh?
Were those in our pack today?
Yeah.
All of this?
No, it should have been,
No.
These
No.
weren't in our pack today?
that should have been last week's. That was last week's information.
I'm pretty sure it was then.
They're probably
Oh, wait a
Jan's.
minute, though, that must be.
Oath of office, yeah.
The oath of office I didn't do.
That would have been last week's information,
Yeah.
Tom.
That's your stuff.
Okay.
Who's on first?
We're still trying to sort it out. Okay. Public comment. Anyone here for public comment this evening?
Tim Matheson. Couple of questions for Clerk of the Works. In your last meeting here, it was said that the polishing of the floors was a freebie, and now we're learning it's $6,000.
Wasn't, I don't know how you want to do this.
Yeah. It should come through me.
Okay.
I think it's terminology, but Bruce, you're welcome to answer it.
Sure. Was, I don't think I ever said it was a freebie. It did fall within the budget. There was some items that, the type of construction that goes, we actually, town paid for the cost of items plus the general contractor 6%. So as some items came in under budget, there was a running tally that we used to fund some things that weren't in the budget, like the polishing of the concrete floor. There was no budget item for flooring at all anywhere in the budget. So it, so that's all.
So was it a change order?
No, there was no change orders.
Now, the way I understand it is, correct me if I'm wrong, is that there was enough funding left to do certain things, and one of those certain things was the polishing of the floor in the office area. And I think you mentioned a couple of other things too as well, changing the air hose from steel to aluminum.
That was actually almost more of a change than the polishing of the floor. In the water system, there was no funds in there for, there was a well allowance in there, but there was no funds for a water system.
For treatment.
Right, and when we got the water test done, with the arsenic was kind of high, the iron was kind of high, we put the water system in so that there wouldn't be a problem with being able to drink the water and not have iron contamination in fixtures and the plumbing and all that.
Okay, and also the the venting of the 5,000 gallon water tank. Now, that was, what does that vent to inside the garage? Is that a open cover, manhole?
No, there's a vent that it vents outside. It's tied into a piece of PVC pipe that runs across the floor to the far end of the building, and it vents outside.
And there's a sewer trap there, a baffle
Right.
on both ends. Okay. Well, the concrete floor in the truck bay, was that sealed? If not, why not?
It wasn't in the budget, that did not get sealed. The problem with sealing concrete in that kind of an application is the fuel oil and grease and hydraulic oil that would end up on the floor, deteriorate the sealant. There's no, it's a huge maintenance item to be able to seal that properly, and you have to redo it constantly. And
It's a one-shot deal. So I just worried about the salt effect, the salt spalt in the concrete. If we haven't sealed it, it should be sealed.
Well, okay, we could make note of that in the minutes, but that's not
Yeah.
on Bruce's
Well,
plan.
yeah, I'm just want to make it known.
Okay.
But it's going to spalt as those trucks roll in. As the wet cycles, the dry cycles, it'll spalt the concrete, and you'll be just down to the aggregate. And do you think we can have the electrical contractor do an electrical consumption chart on the whole of the DPW?
Again, that certainly is something that if you, under public comment, we can put that in the minutes. It's not really a question for Bruce as far as whether or not we can do that. It's up to the board asking if we want that done.
Because I had heard earlier that they didn't know if they'd be able to run the welder with everything else going. And now they're saying everything will run on 45K. When I said before it was a 50K, so it's kind of confusing when that screw type air compressor is running watts 11,000 plus to 13,000 watts. Startup power there again is 37 to 45K on its own. I just not really believing that. And last candidates night, before I left home, 2 of the Boston channels were saying 3 to 4 inches an hour from 7 o'clock on. So
It's not really a lot of time to reschedule at this point, so I think we go and talk to each other. We'll duke it out.
and we
I don't
know
want to duke it out with you.
Oh,
You're
thanks.
too big.
And do we know what kind of cost was saved on the building itself and the concrete?
Cost saving on the concrete?
They said those bids came a little lower than was projected.
I think that there are several things during the course of it that came in lower. I don't know if you can answer that, Bruce, off the top of your head or not.
No, I can't answer it. I think concrete was not something that came in lower. I didn't know that.
Mhm. I remember you had to have them go back on some of the concrete, just because of the footing. I think I remember back when you were doing that, they had to do something to,
Well, they had to jackhammer a footing apart and redo it because they had to mislocate the bolts. And instead of just cutting them off and drilling them, I wouldn't let them do that. They had to take the pier out and re-pour it.
I remember there's something with the footing that you had them redo.
It's the first I've heard of that.
He told us, yeah. Anyone else? Any other public comment?
Lori Davis, 118 Buxton School Road. I was on the committee to have the highway garage built. And as the Board of Selectmen are well aware, you have to account to the taxpayers how you spend your money. We expect itemized accountings from our Board of Selectmen. That's part of our budget process. When you have a project as big as the highway garage that the voters have voted to do, and they have entrusted it to the board to make sure it's done correctly, they too have a right to expect a full and complete accounting. They should know what the concrete costs, what doors cost. There should be a complete accounting of everything. You do it in your home, you do it in your bank accounts, we do it in our town, we expect it of our department heads. We also expect, yes, that there can be problems, but those problems should also be documented, and that should be very clear accounting as to what they cost, what they saved, where we went wrong, so we don't do it again. It's a learning process, but it is the correct process. It is about being transparent. It is about answering to your voters, who are your taxpayers, who are paying a lot of money to get these things done. And the board should be asking for more accounting. I, as a town resident and a taxpayer, expect to be able to go to my town administrator or this board and get a full report of everything that was spent, line by line, so that I know it's also my money, as well as everybody else who's paying taxes in this town. Secondly, I think it is unfortunate that to date we still haven't discussed the full-blown lawsuit. But more importantly, when somebody comes to you and explains what happened because they were part of the lawsuit, you can't even justify your actions to them. Now, whether you didn't want to get into an argument or not, again, that's your choice. But it looks bad. Taxpayers are looking for transparency. We hear it from the board all the time. We want our committees transparent. You want the finance committee transparent. But while we're listening to things on the new ACO's position, it's nice that you have a report in front of you. It's nice that the police chief has a report in front of him. You are putting together a person's position that the taxpayers are funding. We have no idea what this position does. None. And we're footing the bill for it. Again, lack of transparency. There's nothing illegal about letting us know the job description completely, what is expected of this person, what their duties are. It's the right to know law. And yet at every meeting on this ACO, when it's here at a public meeting, well, you have it in front of you. We never hear what it is you're discussing. Lack of transparency. I'm concerned about the lack of transparency from my Board of Selectmen. Very concerned.
The ACO, the description will be posted when it's completed. It's still a process in the works, and will certainly be posted in order to hire a person for the position. Anybody else?
Cheryl Burdick, 382 Deering Center Road. I would just like to see a full report of the items that Bruce actually found that were wrong. How many items he actually detected that were wrong, and have that out. I'd also like to know what the load of the building is, the full load, electrical load of that building is.
Are you talking about the electrical load?
Yep, the electrical load, the full load of that building, everything when it's running, what the full load is. All right, I don't know, do you know that, Bruce? Really? What about the insulation? Do you know what the insulation is in that building now?
I don't know all the specifics about the building off the top of my head.
Really?
As we just said, though, we have both an electronic and we'll have a paper version of all the things you're talking about.
I don't see transparency here. I think when you put a building in like that, first of all, we had no minutes. That was a town committee, no minutes. And then we have a building put up and we have no reports, no minutes, nothing, what went on, what didn't go on, what the R value on the doors is. I mean, I can tell you what it is, and I built a house 30 years ago, and I can tell you what the R value on the house is,
And
what
all
the
of
walls,
these
what
are
the
part
roof
of the
is.
report, that is coming on that. That's all, when we paid the bills as we went along, incrementally, as it was being constructed, we got invoices which were signed off on and paid by the board. And we don't bring all of our invoices in and say, okay, this is what we paid this week, folks, or,
I'm not asking that. What I'm asking was several simple questions. What the R value was on the walls and ceiling, what the R value was on the garage doors. That's just basic.
And it's all information that's available.
You should have that
but
up
it's-
here if you worked on the project. I know what my house was 30 years ago, Tom. I know what someone else's house that I helped build was.
Well,
It just seems kind of ridiculous that we don't have basic information, I went through this back in April, didn't know any of it then either, and they'd been working on it for 18 months. I think there's a big separation here that people don't know.
well,
What's going
I
on?
disagree, and I know that we're both running for office, which is part of what's going on here. But,
No, it's not what's going on. I asked these same questions back in April, and I asked them of Bruce, and he was asked 7 questions and couldn't answer any of them. That was basic questions about the building, just basic, nothing complicated. And I asked the questions, and he said he didn't know, and he'd get back to me. Well, he never got back to me. Now the building's complete. I'm asking the question again, it's basic questions, and I'm still not getting an answer.
All he said was that he doesn't have all of the stuff committed to me.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what he said.
All right.
It is all available, all the plans from the building inspector's office. You open during business hours.
Yeah, I just thought you'd know. I mean, if somebody that's in the, doing the building would absolutely know that, that was all.
Anybody correspondence? Other business? Nothing? Okay. And I move that we go into non-public under A and C. Is there a second?
Second.
Jim?
Okay.
Aye.
All right.
Jan?